The night was cold, and the wind carried the sound of rustling leaves across the broken road. John pulled his coat tighter as he walked through the ruins of the old colony. No lights, no voices, just silence and fog. Thick as smoke, he was looking for scrap old tech to sell back in the market. It was supposed to be just another quiet job, but then he heard it. A soft sound, almost like a whisper. He froze, holding his breath. The sound came again, a quiet sob, mixed with something else, something not human. John slowly moved toward the sound. Boots crunching over gravel. His flashlight flickered, then caught movement. There, between two broken walls, stood a small figure. She was glowing faintly, like moonlight trapped in a glass bottle. Her skin was pale blue, her arms thin and shaking. She looked like a little girl, but she was not from Earth. Her eyes were too big, too deep, with stars inside them. She stared at him. Not speaking, her lips moved, but no sound came out. John held up his hands, showing he had no weapon. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'm not gonna hurt you." She blinked, then whispered two words. "They're coming." Before John could ask who, a loud thump echoed through the fog. He grabbed the girl's hand and ran. His heart pounded as he pulled her into a nearby shelter. Metal doors creaked behind them, locking them inside. They sat in the darkness, breathing hard. After a few minutes, the sound outside faded. The girl sat curled in a corner, shivering. John took off his coat and wrapped it around her. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her tunic and pulled out a small silver cube. It had strange lines across its surface, glowing faintly like her skin. John reached toward it. As soon as his fingers touched the cube, shifted, it unfolded slowly into a thin, flat card. Glowing blue symbols appeared across its surface. "What is this?" he whispered. The girl looked up, her voice still weak. "Memory seal," John frowned. "Yours?" She nodded, then pointed at the card. "Important." They want it. He didn't know who they were, but something about the card felt powerful, dangerous even. Outside, the fog grew thicker, and distant lights flashed through it. John's instincts screamed one thing. They had to leave. He picked the girl up gently. She was light, too light for someone her size. He carried her out through the back exit, moving carefully. As he stepped outside, a shadow passed overhead. He looked up and saw it. A black drone, silent and watching. Floating above them, its red eye blinked once, then flew away. "They found us," the girl whispered. John didn't wait. He ran toward his bike, the girl holding tightly onto him. The cube, now a glowing keycard, was tucked in his pocket. Pulsing softly, they reached the old highway, broken and wild. Behind them, something exploded in the direction of the colony ruins. Flames lit up the fog, and strange howls followed. "What do they want from you?" John asked as he rode. The girl looked at him and said just one thing. "I carry a way home." The keycard glowed brighter, and somewhere far below the Earth's surface, an ancient machine awoke. Its sensors locked onto the signal the girl carried. Its lights blinked for the first time in centuries, and deep underground, something began to move. John didn't know what he had stepped into, but he knew one thing. He couldn't leave the girl behind. Not now, not ever. The rain hit the windows of John's old shack like tiny fists. Lightning flashed outside, but inside, it was quiet, too quiet. The alien girl sat on a worn-out couch, hugging her knees. She hadn't spoken much since they escaped, but her eyes, they kept staring at the glowing card, as if waiting for it to speak first. John placed a plate of warm noodles in front of her. "Eat something," he said. She looked at the food, confused, then picked it up and smelled it like a wild animal testing a new scent. After a few bites, her breathing calmed. John sat across from her, the card in his hand. It looked like a normal piece of tech now, but when he touched it earlier, he saw flashes. Images burned into his mind. A tall structure under the ground, a sealed vault, a machine that wasn't dead, just sleeping. He cleared his throat. "You said it's a memory seal." The girl nodded. Yes. But not only that. What? Is it really? She hesitated, then leaned forward, her voice soft and serious. It's a map and a question. John blinked. A question? She nodded. It doesn't open doors. It asks, who are you? Just then, the power in the shack flickered. The card on the table lit up bright blue and floated half an inch in the air. John stood up fast, hand on his old pistol, but the girl didn't move. She simply whispered, it found something. Card flashed again, and this time, a line of symbols floated above it in the air. Then, a voice, female, soft and ancient, echoed in the room. Bearer identified, location locked. Access begins. What did it just do? John asked, stunned. The girl didn't answer. She stood, walked to the card, and pressed her palm against it. Her skin shimmered, the lights dimmed, and suddenly, a 3D hologram bloomed out of the card. It showed a large underground structure, shaped like a spiral, buried deep under broken earth. A red dot pulsed inside it, and a path marked from John's current location straight to that place. John stared. That's not far from here. It's in the dead zone. The girl looked at him, her voice clearer now. They locked the truth down there. Long ago, before John could ask more, a loud thump hit the roof. Both of them froze. John grabbed his pistol and slowly walked to the door. He opened it. Nothing. Just rain and wind. But when he turned around, his eyes widened. A small black box now sat on his table. He hadn't brought it there. Is that yours? He asked. The girl shook her head, stepping back slowly. The box clicked and opened by itself. Inside was a piece of tech round blinking red. John recognized it instantly. A hunter drone tracker. They know where we are, he said through gritted teeth. The girl looked afraid. Not for herself, but for him. We have to leave. Now John grabbed the card, stuffed it in his coat, and loaded his gear. The girl took one last look at the tracker before they ran. As they reached his bike, the skies turned darker. Far behind them, another explosion lit the hills. Someone was burning down the shack. As they sped through the forest roads, the card glowed again. This time it spoke clearly. Warning. Access point destabilizing. You must reach the vault within 48 Earth hours. What happens after 48 hours? John shouted over the roar of wind. The girl replied softly, the door will disappear forever. And so began their race, not for gold, not for treasure, but for an answer hidden below the earth, one that could change everything about who the alien girl was, and why she had been made. Somewhere deep under the ruins, ancient eyes were opening, and something was waiting to ask the final question. Who will take the key and open the future? The trees grew thinner as they rode deeper into the wastelands. Rust-colored fog floated low to the ground. The air smelled of ash and old fire. This place wasn't just abandoned, it was forgotten. No birds, no animals, not even the sound of wind. John stopped the bike at the edge of a deep crater. The map from the keycard pulsed in his hand again. This is it, he muttered. The alien girl climbed down carefully, her silver blue eyes scanning the landscape. In the center of the crater stood the remains of a giant structure. Twisted metal bones poked from the dirt, like the skeleton of the skeleton of a Jalati sculpture. Twisted metal bones poked from the dirt, like the skeleton sturgeon of the crater, like the skeleton of some ancient beast, half buried, cracked and silent. Yet the moment they stepped closer, the card began to hum. It's calling us, she whispered. John glanced around, tense. Or it's warning something. We're here. They found a stairwell beneath a broken slab. Rusty and steep, it spiraled down into the dark earth. As they descended, their footsteps echoed strangely, as if something below was listening. Halfway down, John stopped, eyes narrowing. Someone's been here, he said, pointing to a footprint in the dust. Not old, not faint fresh. They weren't the first to follow the map, and they might not be alone. At the bottom, the stair opened into a vast underground tunnel. Massive pipes ran along the walls. Broken cables dangled like vines, flickering blue lights sparked as they passed, reacting to the girl's presence. She's waking the place up, John thought. Every door they reached slid open without a sound. But only after the girl touched it. As they moved deeper, the tunnel opened into a forgotten city. Yes, a city, built under the earth. Towers collapsed. Signs in alien language, hover platforms rusted mid-air. And yet, here and there, small lights blinked like faint memories still alive. What is this place? John asked, stepping over a fallen street lamp. The girl stood still, almost frozen. This was my people's last shelter, she said softly, then she frowned. But I don't remember living here. John looked around, uneasy. You said they erased your memory, she nodded, her fingers brushing the metal wall. Images suddenly flickered to life, holograms of tall beings walking these halls. A large meeting chamber, a hidden vault, a group of scientists. And her, smaller than the others, held in someone's arms. Glowing, John watched silently. She wasn't just from this place, she was created here, for something more than even she understood. Then from above, the silence broke. A voice crackled through an old intercom. You're not supposed to be here. John turned quickly, gun drawn. The girl stepped behind him, eyes wide. Footsteps echoed through the hollow buildings. A group of figures appeared, scavengers, dressed in black armor, their eyes scanning with greed. They had weapons, lights, and something worse, tracking drones. The leader, a scarred woman with a cybernetic eye, stepped forward. That card doesn't belong to you, she said. John narrowed his eyes. It doesn't belong to you either, she smirked. Maybe not. But we know what it leads to, and we'll take it, one way or another. John looked down at the girl. She clutched his arm tightly, the card glowing bright in her pocket. Suddenly, she stepped forward, raised her hand. A wave of energy blasted out, short and sharp, knocking lights out and drones offline. Everyone froze. John stared at her, shocked. The girl's eyes glowed white for a second. Then she collapsed into his arms. The scavengers looked just as stunned. But before they could move, a deep rumble shook the ground. Metal groaned, lights flickered, and a large door at the far end of the city slid open on its own. Beyond it, only darkness and a single message pulsing in the air. Vault access. Authorized. John carried the girl and ran. He didn't know what lay ahead, but staying behind meant death. The scavengers shouted and followed. Bullets flew. Sparks lit the air, but the vault door began closing behind him, just as he slid through with the girl. It slammed shut, sealing them inside, and trapping them in a place that hadn't been open for hundreds of years. In the dark, the card pulsed again, and a voice spoke from deep within the walls. Final phase initiated. The bearer has returned. The door behind them sealed shut with a loud hiss. The sound echoed through the hollow vault like a warning. John stood still, heart pounding, his back against cold metal. He couldn't hear the scavengers anymore, but that didn't make him feel safe. Beside him, the alien girl lay unconscious. Her skin glowed dimly now, no longer sparking like before. She had used some kind of hidden energy, and it had nearly broken her. The chamber was dark, but the keycard lit up with a steady pulse. It hovered from John's hand and floated forward, drawn like a magnet towards something deep within the vault. John gently picked the girl up and followed. The air grew warmer as they moved deeper. Strange symbols lit up on the walls as they passed, symbols John couldn't read, but somehow understood. He didn't know the language, but the meaning reached his mind like a whisper. Do not enter unless chosen. He kept walking, every step echoing through the giant hallway. Finally, he reached a massive circular door. It was unlike the others, ancient, untouched, and pulsing with strange life. The keycard hovered toward the center and clicked into a round slot. A low hum began to rise, followed by a voice, not from a speaker, but from the air itself. Final question. Is the human worthy? John's throat dried up. What? He whispered, looking around. I don't understand. What does that mean? The girl stirred in his arms, eyes fluttering open. Her voice was weak. "It's testing you. The vault won't open unless it knows you." "Knows me how?" She pointed at the card. "It reads, your memories, your truth." Suddenly, the symbols on the wall flashed and images appeared all around him. Scenes from John's life, a battlefield, where he dragged his injured captain to safety, a burning colony, where he saved a crying child, his lonely shack where he gave food to strangers with nothing in return. John watched in silence. He hadn't lived a perfect life, but he had always tried to do what was right, even when it hurt. The vault door rumbled. A circle of light appeared at its center, slowly opening. But before it could fully unlock, a shot rang out. Sparks exploded to the left, and John spun around. The scavenger leader had made it through the door, barely before it sealed again. Her face was furious, eyes locked on the glowing card in the wall. "You've come too far," she growled, raising her weapon. John stepped in front of the girl, shielding her. "I won't let you take her." She smiled coldly. "I don't want her. I want what's behind that door." Before she could fire again, the vault spoke once more. "Unworthy detected. Defense system active." A hidden turret dropped from the ceiling with a hiss. It scanned the scavenger and fired a beam of pure light. She screamed and dropped her weapon, collapsing to the floor unconscious. John stared at the weapon, then at the glowing door. It had protected him, not just the vault. The girl stood beside him now, weak but alert. "She chose you," the voice said again. "She gave you the path, the key, the memory. And now, the burden." The vault door finally opened, slowly and silently. What lay beyond wasn't gold, or jewels, or weapons. It was a huge chamber with a single chair in the center, and a machine. Unlike anything on Earth, it was round, alive with light, floating slightly above the floor, pulsing with the same energy as the girl's skin. "What is that?" John asked. The girl stepped forward slowly. "That is the original core," she whispered. "The first AI created by my people. It holds the truth. All of it." As she approached it, the machine reacted, rising higher. Then it spoke, not in her voice, or John's, but in a voice older than time. "You have brought the bearer home." The final sequence begins. The lights dimmed, the air vibrated with power, and behind them, the door shut tight once again. There was no turning back, no escape, only the truth that waited ahead. This was the door of no return. The air inside the vault chamber didn't feel like air anymore. It hummed alive, full of energy, almost like it could breathe on its own. John stood frozen, the alien girl beside him. The floating machine in the center slowly turned toward them. Its surface was smooth, dark and covered in lights that moved like stars. Then it spoke, "Human ... forward." The voice wasn't loud, but it shook John's bones. It wasn't just sound, it felt like the machine was speaking directly into his mind. John looked at the girl, unsure. She gave a small nod. "It won't hurt you." "Not yet." He stepped closer, one foot in front of the other, heart pounding. The machine scanned him with a beam of soft blue light. Images flickered in the air around them, memories again. But this time, not John's. They were hers. Flashes of a city full of tall, shining towers, alien beings walking peacefully together. The girl's smaller, younger being held by two tall figures, a bright star exploding in the sky. And then darkness. The images faded. The machine's voice returned, slower this time. "She is the final carrier." Her memory was sealed to protect what was lost. John frowned. "Protect what?" The girl looked down at her hands. "My people's last hope." A location, a message, a warning. John stared at the machine. "Why me? Why was I given the keycard? Why did you test me?" The machine paused, then answered, "Because no one else would have helped her." Silence. The words cut deep, and John knew they were true. In the galaxy, people saw aliens like her as freaks, slaves, tools, never equals. But John had helped her without asking for anything, and now he was part of something far bigger. The machine glowed brighter. A circle of symbols rose from its base and spun slowly around it. The girl stepped forward and placed her palm on the surface. Her body lit up, veins glowing like rivers of light. She gasped but didn't stop. The machine said, "Carrier memory unlock, confirmed. Final coordinates decrypted. Sequence ready." A massive screen formed in the air above them. A star map appeared, with dozens of blinking lights. But one shined brighter than the rest, a golden star surrounded by rings of code. "That's it," she said softly. "That's where the real core was hidden, where the last truth is buried." John stared at the map. It was far, way beyond known space. Beyond even the old colony records. They would need a ship, supplies, time, luck. Then, suddenly, the chamber shook. The lights flickered red. The machine's tone changed. "Warning. Unauthorized presence detected. Defense systems failing." John spun around. The vault door, sealed before, was now sparking. Cutting torches had breached it from the outside. More scavengers were coming. And this time, they were serious. The girl looked panicked. "They'll kill us. They want the map. They'll destroy everything." John grabbed her hand. "Is there another way out?" The machine responded quickly. "Emergency escape route available. Reward protocol activated." From the floor, a hidden panel slid open, revealing a platform with a small glowing orb floating above it. "Stand there," the girl said, pulling him. As they stepped on, the orb scanned them both, then dropped into John's hand. It was warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. "What is this?" he asked. The girl smiled faintly, even through the fear. "Your reward," she whispered. "The only thing that can open the gate to the stars." As the platform began to descend quickly into a hidden tunnel, John looked up one last time. The machine's voice echoed behind them. "Protect her. Find the truth. The future depends on both of you." The entrance sealed shut above them just as explosions rocked the vault. John held the orb tight and looked at the girl. "Are you ready?" he asked. She nodded. "I was made ready. Now I remember." The platform came to a stop in a wide tunnel carved from smooth black stone. No wires, no pipes, no stairs. Just a glowing path leading forward. John looked around, eyes adjusting to the dim blue lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. The orb in his hand now floated just above his palm, spinning slowly. It was guiding them somewhere deeper. The alien girl stepped forward, her bare feet silent against the stone. She was different now. Her glow was steady, her eyes calm, not confused anymore. She remembered who she was. "I was part of the memory net," she said softly. As they walked, a living archive. "I didn't carry a message. I was the message." John listened closely. She spoke slowly, like someone unfolding a dream. "My creators feared extinction," she continued. "So they took the knowledge of our world, our cities, even our history, and placed it inside me." Her fingers brushed the glowing walls, which lit up at her touch. "They locked my mind with codes, then scattered the keys across space, hoping someone good would find them." John raised an eyebrow. "And you think I'm that someone good?" She smiled faintly. "You didn't sell me, hurt me, or abandon me. You didn't ask why I was strange. You just helped." That simple truth made John silent for a moment. He had never thought of himself as a hero, just someone doing what felt right. They came to a door made of shimmering light. The orb floated ahead and pulsed against it. The light peeled away like curtains, revealing a chamber filled with stars, not real ones, memories. Thousands of star systems glowing in the air, moving slowly in orbits. Each one had a symbol beside it, floating. Texts and numbers too fast to read. The girl stepped into the middle. The stars swirled around her like a galaxy choosing its center. Then, without warning, the room darkened. A beam of pure white light dropped from the ceiling and struck her chest. John rushed forward, but a force pushed him back. The girl didn't scream. Instead, she floated slightly, her body glowing brighter than ever. The stars around her moved faster, and voices filled the chamber, layered voices, old and wise, all speaking at once. Memory integration complete. Final star path unlocked. A new map formed in the air, different from the one before. It showed a hidden system, one that wasn't in any human database. One planet orbiting a black sun, marked with a symbol shaped like the girl's glowing skin pattern. That's where they hid the true archive, she whispered, slowly floating down. The final truth of my people. And maybe the warning they left behind. John stepped beside her. You think it's a weapon? He asked. She shook her head. Worse, it's a choice. Before he could ask more, the orb beeped 3 times and shot into the far wall. A hidden door opened, revealing something unexpected. A small hangar bay. Inside it was an ancient alien ship, dust-covered but intact. Its sleek frame glowed the same color as the girl's body. The machine said I'd be rewarded, John muttered, stepping toward the ship. Guess it wasn't joking. She touched the side of the ship and it lit up. The door opened with a whisper, and a soft voice welcomed them. Pilot and key. Recognized. Starpath ready for launch. John looked at her, stunned. You're the key? She smiled. I always was. But I couldn't unlock anything without you. They stepped aboard, the ship powering up with each breath they took. As they buckled in, the walls around them came alive. Displays, maps, control panels all glowing and waiting. The ship lifted gently from the floor, and the hidden ceiling peeled open above them. A tunnel of light stretched into the sky. John held the controls, steady hands gripping tightly. The girl sat beside him, calm, ready, as they launched upward into the unknown. She whispered one final truth. My people didn't die in war. They hid because they saw what was coming. John turned to her. What was coming? She looked at him, serious now, a silence that eats stars. And we're flying straight into its memory. The stars stretched like silver threads as the alien ship jumped into deep space. Inside the cockpit, everything was quiet, too quiet. John sat still, eyes locked on the swirling starlight outside. Beside him, the alien girl, now fully awakened, studied the glowing map on the console. She was no longer the lost child he'd found in the ruins. She moved like someone who knew her place in the galaxy. But even now, a part of her still looked at John with quiet trust. She wasn't just a key or a map. She was someone's creation, someone's hope, and John had become her chosen protector. After what felt like hours, the ship slowed near a black sun. No warmth, no light, just darkness pulling everything inward. Orbiting it was a broken planet, cracked and floating in pieces, and yet, in its center, a shining white spire still stood tall. It was ancient, untouched. Waiting, the ship guided them gently to a platform. As the hatch opened, a soft, cold wind blew across John's face. There was no sky, no sound, only that spire, pulsing like a quiet heartbeat. The girl stepped forward, her body glowing brighter with each step she took toward the tower. John followed closely, watching their footsteps disappear behind them. Swallowed by dust, at the base of the spire stood a stone altar. The orb that once floated in John's hand suddenly rose again. It hovered above the altar, then cracked open. Inside was nothing. At least that's what John thought, until the girl whispered, "It's not empty. It's waiting for something." She reached out and placed her hand on it. A sudden wave of golden light exploded from the tower, rising into the skies' void, and the voice returned, ancient, all-knowing, and sad. You have arrived at the end. Do you choose to remember, or to remain forgotten? John looked at the girl. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Remember." The spire shuddered, then opened like a flower. A hidden chamber appeared within. Walls lined with living, memory-moving images, glowing scrolls, recordings and alien voices. All their history, all their knowledge. And then John saw something else, a vision. The girl, not as she was now, but younger, alone, being placed into a pod by tall alien beings, tears in their eyes, one whispering, "She live. Even if we don't." The vision ended. John stood frozen. They had known their world would fall, but they didn't send a warning, or an army, or a weapon. They sent her, not to fight, but to be remembered. That was the reward. Not gold, not power, but truth, a forgotten people's legacy, entrusted to the only one who listened. The voice spoke again, "For carrying the last of us, and for protecting her. You are offered one final gift." A small compartment opened. From the altar, inside lay a card, not glowing like the first one. This one was pure silver, pulsing with a heartbeat. The girl looked at it, then at John. "This opens gates. Not just doors, you could go anywhere. Any star, even home." John stared at it. He thought about Earth, his old shack, the quiet life he left behind. But then he looked at her. She was still holding his hand, gently. He closed the compartment without taking the card. "I already got my reward," he said. She blinked. "What is it?" "You," John said simply. "You're alive. And I got to be the one who helped you find yourself again." The girl didn't speak. She just smiled, the kind of smile that carried whole histories inside it. Behind them, the tower dimmed, its final message sent. Its story passed on, not to a million listeners, but to one man. And one girl who carried the stars in her blood. They boarded the ship again, this time. With no fear, no confusion, only purpose. As they took off from the broken world, the black sun behind them, John asked, "Where to next?" The girl looked at the star map, then turned to him. "Anywhere you want, Captain." And for the first time in a long, long while, John smiled, not because he had found treasure, but because he had found a future. Together, they flew beyond maps, beyond memory, beyond even legend, and that was how a lost girl and a simple human rewrote the story of a dying race. Not with war, but with kindness, and the galaxy would never forget it.